Right now, there is a war happening in the Middle East that could destroy the one system keeping America the most powerful country on earth. And no, I'm not talking about the military. I'm not talking about aircraft carriers or nuclear weapons or fighter jets. I am talking about something way more powerful than all of that combined. I am talking about the petrodollar. See, most people look at the Iran-Israel conflict and they think this is about religion. They think this is about territory. They think this is about who launched what missile at who, but that is the surface. That is the movie playing on your screen, while the real plot is happening behind the curtain. Because what is actually at stake right now is the financial system that has kept the United States dollar at the center of the entire global economy for over 50 years. And right now, that system is cracking, the math is breaking, the geography is shifting, and the craziest part? Most people have absolutely no idea it is even happening. They are watching the explosions on the news, they are watching the political speeches, they are picking sides, and meanwhile, the actual game, the real game, the one that determines who controls the global economy for the next century, that game is being played right underneath their feet. So today, I am going to break this down for you. Not the version you see on CNN, not the version you see on Twitter, the real version. The version that is about money, oil, game theory, and the future of American power itself. Let me say this one more time so it really sinks in. The war between Iran and Israel is not just a military conflict. On the surface, yes, it looks like one. You see the missiles, you see the drone strikes, you see the retaliations, but underneath all of that, what is actually happening is an economic war. It is an attack on the financial engine that powers American global dominance. And this is not some conspiracy theory. This is not speculation. This is game theory. This is geography. This is cold, hard, brutal math. When you strip away the noise, when you strip away the media coverage and the political talking points, what you are left with is a calculated strategic assault on the system that allows the United States to borrow trillions of dollars, fund the largest military in human history, and maintain influence in every single corner of the globe. That system has a name. It is called the petrodollar system. And if you do not understand how it works, then you cannot understand why this war is happening, why it is happening now, and why the outcome of this conflict could reshape the entire global order for the rest of our lifetimes.
All right, and with all that being said, all praise to our Heavenly Father, the Most High Yah, the great I am that I am, in the name of our Lord and Savior. Some of y'all call him Yahushua, some of y'all call him Yahushua, some of y'all call him Jesus, right? We talk about the petrodollar, you know what I mean, a lot, you know what I'm saying, in previous videos on this channel, right? One thing that you have to understand is what this world, or what this war is actually all about, right? Because I was talking with, you know what I mean, Sister Reveal. Shout out to you, Sister Reveal. I was talking with her. And we were talking, and the reason why it made me think about doing this video is because regardless of how this goes, if the United States, you know what I'm saying, begins to lose this war, we're going to get a new world order. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to change the way the world operates concerning the petrodollar, right? If that dollar loses its value, we here in America, we are going to know, you know what I'm saying, the devastating effects of it, right? Now, we know from scripture that this final kingdom is going to have a system in which you're not going to be able to buy or sell, say if you take a mark in your forehead or in your right hand, right? That's what the scripture tells us, right? So we know that right now, we can go and buy, you can use cash and all that kind of stuff right now. But the bottom line is, they're trying to move everything to a digital system. If they move you to a digital system, now you can have paper money in your house all day long. It doesn't matter. If you ever went to the store, you know what I'm saying, with one of these cards or your phone or whatever, and you swipe and whatever, and then it doesn't work, you know, then you understand what can happen to you if your money is all digital. Because if you got your money in digital right now, they can go in and wipe out your account right now if they want to, right? You say, oh, well, they say they wouldn't do that, whatever. What y'all going to see is they have always promised people lies in which, you know what I'm saying, to bring in the next system, you know? But now let's talk about the petrodollar, how this all began, okay? I found a little short video, you know, and I know a lot of y'all are like, well, I don't know about it or whatever. But again, there's people that may have come across this video for the first time, right? And so I have to start at the basics so we can build up so that we can all understand what's going on with this war. But anyway, now I found a quick little video, so let me show y'all that, and then we'll jump into some other clips. So let's go to this next video.
Hey there. Have you ever wondered why almost every country buys oil using US dollars, even if they don't use dollars at home? It might sound surprising, but it all happens because of a system called the petrodollar. So, what exactly is a petrodollar? It's basically a deal that made the US dollar primary money for buying oil. But the interesting part is how it became the rule for the whole world. To understand more, let's go back to the 1970s. At that time, the world was dealing with expensive oil, wars, and money problems. The United States made a smart deal with Saudi Arabia, the biggest oil-producing country at that time. The deal was simple. Saudi Arabia would sell its oil only in US dollars. In return, the US promised to protect them and build a good relationship. After that, other oil-producing countries made the same deal, and very quickly, the US dollar became the main currency for buying oil worldwide. No matter where you lived, if your country wanted to buy oil, you had to get US dollars first. For example, if Japan wanted to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, it couldn't pay with its own money. First, they had to get US dollars, then buy the oil. Same for India buying oil from Iraq, only US dollars allowed. This kept the US dollar very important and valuable around the world. Because so many countries needed dollars to buy oil, the US could easily borrow money, print more dollars without causing big problems, and stay powerful in global finance. But today, things are slowly changing. Some countries, like China and Russia, are starting to buy and sell oil using other currencies instead of US dollars. If more countries follow them, it could change how the world's money system works. Next time someone talks about oil prices or the dollar's strength, just remember, it's the petrodollar system quietly working behind the scenes.
So you see, the petrodollar was created because the United States made an agreement with Saudi Arabia, who at the time was the world's leading oil producer, right? That you only sell your oil in dollars and we'll protect you. So that's the agreement. We will protect you, right? From that moment on, you know what I'm saying? The United States dollar has a value to it because any country who needs oil has to come to the United States to get dollars, right? You see what I'm saying? So this is now where the petrodollar now has its value. Why did the United States need to do this, right? Let me show you the next clip and y'all see exactly why they made that agreement with Saudi Arabia.
Why did the United States attack Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Yemen? Why are U.S. operatives helping to destabilize Syria? And why is the United States government so intent on taking down Iran, in spite of the fact that Iran has not attacked any country since 1798? And what's next? What are we headed for? When you look at the current trajectory that we're on, it doesn't make any sense at all if you evaluate it based on what we're taught in school. And it doesn't make any sense if you base your worldview on the propaganda that the mainstream media tries to pass off as news. But it makes perfect sense once you know the real motives of the powers that be. In order to understand those motives, we first have to take a look at history. In 1945, the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the world reserve currency, which meant that international commodities were priced in dollars. The agreement, which gave the United States a distinct financial advantage, was made under the condition that those dollars would remain redeemable for gold at a consistent rate of $35 per ounce. The United States promised not to print very much money, but this was on the honor system, because the Federal Reserve refused to allow any audits or supervision of its printing presses.
All right, so now let's look at the Bretton Woods system that he told you that happened in the 1940s, okay? The Bretton Woods system of monetary management established the rules for commercial relations among 44 countries, including the United States, Canada, European countries, and Australia after the 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement until the Jamaica Accords in 1976. The Bretton Woods system was the first example of a fully negotiated monetary order. So you see, when we start talking about New World Order or New Monetary Order, right, intended to govern monetary relations among independent states. The Bretton Woods systems required countries to guarantee convertibility of their currencies into US dollars, with the dollar convertible to gold bullion for foreign governments and central banks, right? It envisioned greater cooperation among countries to prevent future competitive devaluations, and thus established the International Monetary Fund to monitor exchange rates and lend reserve currencies to countries with balance of payments deficits. According to Barry Eichengreen, the Bretton Woods system operated successfully due to three factors: low international capital mobility, tight financial regulation, and the dominant economic and financial position of the United States and the dollar, right? All right. So basically, as the guy just told you in the video, the United States still was only supposed to print the money that they had, gold reserves for. Well, when they started printing money, you know what I'm saying, that they didn't have the gold for, now you're basically was printing up fake money, you know what I'm saying, fiat currency, because you didn't have the gold for it. So when these countries, begin to realize you don't got that money that you printing and that you're just giving me worthless paper, you know what I'm saying, that's not backed by gold, we got a problem. Let's go back to the clip. Y'all gonna see how this manifested, you know what I'm saying, into a problem.
In the years leading up to 1970, expenditures in the Vietnam War made it clear to many countries that the US was printing far more money than it had in gold. And in response, they began to ask for their gold back. This, of course, set off a rapid decline in the value of the dollar. The situation climaxed in 1971 when France attempted to withdraw its gold and Nixon refused. On August 15th, he made the following announcement.
I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
This was obviously not a temporary suspension, as he claimed, but rather a permanent default. And for the rest of the world who had entrusted the United States with their gold, it was outright theft.
All right, so you see what happened. Basically, France got the notion is, wait a minute, y'all printing up more money, you know what I'm saying, than you have in gold. Is this fake money? Give me my gold back. I want my gold back, right? And Nixon and them was like, no. You know what I'm saying? Nah. We're removing the gold, you know what I'm saying, standard, that the dollar's based on. We're decoupling, you know what I mean, gold and the dollar. Because we're not giving you anything. You know what I'm saying? Now you see the people don't want dollars no more because it's not backed by gold. So now that dollar is going to start losing value if other countries don't want it. Because they're like, you're printing up a bunch of fake notes. You ain't even got the gold. Y'all cheating us, right? So now what do? You got to find another way to bring value to your dollar. That's why they had to make that agreement with Saudi Arabia to once again make people want to have to get dollars, right? Let's go back to the video.
In 1973, President Nixon asked King Faisal of Saudi Arabia to accept only US dollars as payment for oil and to invest any excess profits in US Treasury bonds, notes, and bills. In return, Nixon offered military protection for Saudi oil fields. The same offer was extended to each of the world's key oil-producing countries, and by 1975, every member of OPEC had agreed to only sell their oil in US dollars. The act of moving the dollar off of gold and tying it to foreign oil instantly forced every oil-importing country in the world to start maintaining a constant supply of Federal Reserve paper. And in order to get that paper, they would have to send real physical goods to America. This was the birth of the petrodollar. Paper went out, everything America needed came in, and the United States got very, very rich as a result. It was the largest financial con in recorded history.
All right. So now y'all see how that ended up happening, right? So what is the effects of all that? Now the United States can print up just paper. You know what I'm saying? I can just print up paper, right? And you got to give me some real tangible asset. whether it's you just making pens, whether it's you making, food and all this type of stuff, you manufacturing goods, you know what I mean? You're going to trade me real goods, you know what I'm saying, for this paper, right? Then I can go take this paper and go buy lands and all this kind of stuff. Right? So you see what I'm saying? It's a big hoax and it's a big hustle. Think about it. We've been out here working, and going to have to put our labor out here, and these people give us pieces of paper, right? That really it has no value except that internationally people need it to trade for oil. You see? So the same way how we feel is like, wait a minute. I've been giving you my labor, for a worthless piece of paper, but yet that worthless piece of paper is not really worthless when people believe that it has value, right? Because I can take that paper and go in and exchange it and get some food, you see? So even though it's fiat currency that's really backed by nothing, because people need it in order to do some trade, to facilitate trade, then it has value, So this is how they hustle the whole world, including the American citizens. Because now you can get, goods manufactured and brought into the country. So why do you need any manufacturing anymore? You see what I'm saying? So now do you see why they all of a sudden start packing up all of the jobs, the manufacturing, centers, and shipping them out over the seas and getting people to do it for pennies on a dollar. That way they can get these goods, sell it back to the American people, and they keep profiting and making billions and billions of dollars where everybody else is sitting here struggling to survive, right? So, you know what I mean? They basically got their slave system all over again, right? Using cheap labor of other people, them giving goods, you handing them paper, you know what I'm saying? Then you go out here and sell it for more, you know what I mean? And then you just keep everything, whatever, needless to say, you got an unlimited supply because you can print up as much money you want whenever you want to, you see? And this is how they become the heads and everybody else became the tail. So of course, these countries want to get out from up underneath that. Anybody who got any common sense will want to get out from up underneath that, So this is where the conflicts begin to happen, in the world.
The arms race of the Cold War was a game of poker. Military expenditures were the chips, and the US had an endless supply of chips. With the petrodollar under its belt, it was able to raise the stakes higher and higher, outspending every other country on the planet, until eventually US military expenditures surpassed that of all other nations in the world combined. The Soviet Union never had a chance. The collapse of the communist bloc in 1991 removed the last counterbalance to American military might. The United States was now an undisputed superpower with no rival. Many hoped that this would mark the beginning of a new era of peace and stability. Unfortunately, there were those in high places who had other ideas.
All right, so you see, the United States, that you didn't sit up here and put a hoax on everybody. What do you expect to happen? Oh, eventually they're going to get mad about it and they're going to try to do something about it. Well, what am I going to do? Oh, well, let's invest in a bunch of weapons. You know what I mean? Let's build the biggest, military base, whatever, to the point that anybody want to try to, jump up and get tough. We're going to come and put some sport on you. That's what we're going to do, right? So now you see why they invested so heavily in military. You know what I mean? Because they knew if anybody tries to book up and try to get up out this system, we're going to put you down, right? Let's go back to the video.
Within that same year, the US invaded Iraq in the first Gulf War. And after crushing the Iraqi military and destroying their infrastructure, including water purification plants and hospitals, crippling sanctions were imposed which prevented that infrastructure from being rebuilt. These sanctions, which were initiated by Bush Sr. and sustained throughout the entire Clinton administration, lasted for over a decade and were estimated to have killed over 500,000 children. The Clinton administration was fully aware of these figures.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And is the price worth it? I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
Miss Albright, what exactly was it that was worth killing 500,000 kids for?
right, so you see. And did you hear once again what he said? Water purification and hospitals, destroying your infrastructure, right? If I come in, because y'all don't want to bow down to me, guess what? I will blow up your infrastructure to the point that you ain't got no water. So I'm going to send you back to, to third world country status. You'll be out there digging wells trying to get you some water, right? So the bottom line is they'll destroy your water supply, which they already know that's going to cause people to die, right? Because you ain't got no water, you're going to die, right? Then on top of it, they're going to destroy your hospitals. So you know what I'm saying? What they doing in Iran, that ain't nothing. You see, Clinton and them did this back with, in Iraq. So you think that it's just each one of these presidents? No. It's deeper than that. It's a shadow, people in the back who's really running this whole system, this scam system, that they've been doing all these years. Now, all of a sudden, they're doing the same thing. But this has been their strategy. If you buck up, we come in, we will destroy your infrastructure. We will take your ability to drink water. And, at the same point in time, you ain't going to no hospital to get fixed up, right? And when your people start dying, you remember, don't buck up against us, right? So you see, that was with Clinton. Now let's see what Bush did when he got in.
In November of 2000, Iraq began selling its oil exclusively in euros. This was a direct attack on the dollar and on U.S. financial dominance, and it wasn't going to be tolerated. In response, the U.S. government, with the assistance of the mainstream media, began to build up a massive propaganda campaign claiming that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction and was planning to use them. In 2003, the U.S. invaded, and once they had control of the country, oil sales were immediately switched back to dollars. This is particularly notable due to the fact that switching back to the dollar meant a 15 to 20% loss in revenue due to the euro's higher value. It doesn't make any sense at all unless you take the petrodollar into account.
All right, so you see, the same people, the money lenders, right? We already know who that is, and those who control the media. So we see what happened. They didn't tell the American people, oh yeah, they're trying to get out of the dollar, so you know what, we're going to make them holler. You know what I'm saying? They didn't do that. They told us a bunch of lies. Oh, they got weapons of mass destruction, And ain't that he's just trying to get his country, a better economic deal, whatever. And he's trying to, get, sell his, his oil in euros so they can get more for his people. No, he's bucking up against us. So the fact he's going to buck up against us, he's got weapons of mass destruction, you know what? And we're going to go over here and we're going to pop him. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a danger to his people. He wants to kill all his people. What they've been going around telling people every time they go over and destroy somebody. So you see, that's what, and this is when, when I start realizing and understanding this was right around this time, 2003, 2004, 2005. I started going in and looking at all this stuff because of what happened on 9/11. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, man, what? Y'all some liars, man. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so now enter Barack Obama. Let's show you what he did.
Let's take a look at the events of the past decade and see if you see a pattern. In Libya, Gaddafi was in the process of organizing a bloc of African countries to create a gold-based currency called the dinar, which they intended to use to replace the dollar in that region. US and NATO forces helped destabilize and topple the Libyan government in 2011, and after taking control of the region, US armed rebels executed Gaddafi in cold blood and immediately set up the Libyan central bank. Iran has been actively campaigning to pull oil sales off of the dollar for some time now, and it has recently secured agreements to begin trading its oil in exchange for gold. In response, the US government, with mainstream media assistance, has been attempting to build international support for military strikes on the pretext of preventing Iran from building a nuclear weapon. In the meantime, they established sanctions which US officials openly admit are aimed at causing a collapse of the Iranian economy. Syria is Iran's closest ally, and they are bound by mutual defense agreements. The country is currently in the process of being destabilized with covert assistance from NATO, and though Russia and China have warned the United States not to get involved, the White House has made statements within the past month indicating that they are considering military intervention. It should be clear that military intervention in Syria and Iran isn't being considered. It's a foregone conclusion, just as it was in Iraq and Libya. The U.S. is actively working to create the context which gives them the diplomatic cover to do what they already have planned. The motive for these invasions and covert actions becomes clear when we look at them in their full context. and connect the dots. Those who control the United States understand that even if a few countries begin to sell their oil in another currency, it will set off a chain reaction, and the dollar will collapse. They understand that there is absolutely nothing else holding up the value of the dollar at this point, and so does the rest of the world. But rather than accepting the fact that the dollar is nearing the end of its lifespan, the powers that be have made a calculated gambit. They have decided to use the brute force of the US military to crush each and every resistant state in the Middle East and Africa. That in itself would be bad enough, but what you need to understand is that this is not going to end with Iran. China and Russia have stated publicly and on no uncertain terms that they will not tolerate an attack on Iran or Syria. Iran is one of their key allies, one of the last independent oil producers in the region, and they understand that if Iran falls, then they will have no way to escape the dollar without going to war. And yet the United States is pushing forward in spite of the warnings. What we are witnessing here is a trajectory that leads straight to the unthinkable. It's a trajectory that was mapped out years ago in full awareness of the human consequences. But who was it that put us on this course? What kind of psychopath is willing to intentionally set off a global conflict that will lead to millions of deaths just to protect the value of a paper currency? It obviously isn't the president. The decision to invade Libya, Syria, and Iran was made long before Obama had risen to the national spotlight. And yet, he's carrying out his duty just like the puppets that preceded him. So who is it that pulls the strings? Often the best answer to questions like this are found by asking another question. Qui bono? Who benefits? Obviously, those who have the power to print the dollar out of thin air have the most to lose if the dollar were to fall. And since 1913, that power has been held by the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a private entity owned by a conglomerate of the most powerful banks in the world. And the men who control those banks are the ones who pull the strings. To them, this is just a game. Your life and the lives of those you love are just pawns on their chessboard. And like a spoiled 4-year-old who tips the board onto the floor when they start to lose, the powers that be are willing to start World War III to keep control of the global financial system. Remember that when these wars extend and accelerate. Remember that when your son or your neighbor's son comes back home in a flag-draped coffin. Remember that when they point the finger at the new boogeyman, because the madmen who are running this show will take this as far as you allow them to.
All right, so now y'all see why Obama went after Libya, right? And he went after Syria, right? If you threaten that petrodollar in any way, shape, form, or fashion, they coming to see you, right? And the bottom line is Syria being Iran's ally, you know, and they thinking Iran was moving through things through Syria, you know what I mean, to, you know what I mean, get Israel. So you see, they've come down to Israel to get a foothold in the Middle East, right? They want to control trade and all that stuff, oil and every daggone thing else. They don't really believe in the Father like that, you know what I'm saying? So they think they can go down there in his land, use an excuse, and took our identity so they can go down there and think that they can control the world, you see? But the bottom line is they done went in here, and now you done went into the land thinking that you was a big, powerful, mighty, and you can whoop any and everybody, but the Most High done showed Iran how to whoop you. You see what I'm saying? Now let me go to the next video so y'all can, you know, begin to understand exactly what I'm saying.
Big question that people have is, first of all, are the Americans going to use ground troops? Because the only way that you can defeat Iran is by using ground troops, okay? That's a big question we will look at over the next few weeks. Will America send its army, 500,000, 2 million soldiers to topple the government? Okay, that's question number one. Question number two, nuclear weapons. If you're losing a war, would you choose to use nuclear weapons? Okay, that's another big question that we have, okay? Another big question that we have is who gets involved? Because this situation is so dire that Europe, okay, specifically Germany, France, and Britain are talking about entering this war. And guess what? If that happens, it is possible that Russia and China will also enter this war on the side of the Iranians. This is World War III. Because of the importance of the Strait of Hormuz, because of the importance of the Middle East, everyone has to get involved at some point. And we're going to use game theory to really try to understand what's happening on the ground and where this could lead us.
All right, so y'all remember what the other guy said in the clip, you know, I showed you before, this last guy. If they start losing, will they be like a toddler? You know what I'm saying? When you're losing a game, it's going to just get up and throw the board in the air, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, if I can't win, nobody's winning, right? So now, if, you know what I mean, Iran starts, you know what I mean, slapping them around, you know what I mean? And you see how the United States is like, listen, Spain, rest of y'all not trying to get involved. Y'all are heavily dependent on oil. Y'all don't got no oil up there, right? So we over here trying to, you know what I mean? Yeah, help this, and these people starting to fire, whatever, and y'all don't want to help us. You know what I'm saying? So all of Great Britain and all that. Well, if y'all want to sit over there and not have no oil, then you know what I mean? Then y'all want to go into dark ages, right? Then so be it, right? Now you just have to deal with Putin. You see what I'm saying? Because see, Russia got oil, right? China, you know what I mean, can deal with Russia to get oil, even though China is heavily dependent off of Middle Eastern oil. So China, you know what I mean, if worse come to worse, if America have to evacuate out of there because they're bombing everything else, China could come in and make friendly relations with, you know what I'm saying, the UAE and all of them or whatever, and now China begins to run that region, right? Because, you know what I'm saying, what is the United States going to do? They're going to have to come over there with boats and ships and all this type of stuff, and China can go over there and they can match them now because they done built up their military, right? So you see what I'm saying? It's you can see how all of this stuff begins to, you know, unfold where you got a major conflict on hand, you know? Now, if the United States is like, you know what, nah, we going to go in here, use our soldiers, and we're going to come in here and put boots on the ground. Now, you know, Trump ran on, we ain't going to do that. But, you know what I'm saying? You start getting licked and they won't stop. You know what I'm saying? Because Iran is saying like, hey, we ain't stopping. You know what I mean? But I'll show y'all that in a minute. But let's go back to this next clip.
There are American bases all over the Middle East. And originally, these bases were established to protect them from basically their own people, okay? These are monarchies that were imposed on these nations by the Anglo-American Empire, the British first, and then the Americans came to support these monarchies. And so they provide defense. But then you're like, wait a minute here. I mean, didn't we just say that these American bases can't actually defend these people, that they're exposed? And the answer is yes, that's true. But remember that the American military was built during the Cold War. And the Cold War was a war between the Soviet Union and America. And so the Cold War was defined as something called MAD, mutually assured destruction, because both had nuclear weapons, okay? So they didn't really go to war against each other. And so in other words, these bases aren't really meant to defend these nations from other enemies. They're really meant to impose American authority in the Middle East, okay? And it's the idea of this. It's the idea that empire, it is really an image. It is a hallucination. It's just an idea. Empire is it's an aura of invincibility and invisibility, okay? If you fear it, then you obey it. But it's not really designed to fight a war, okay? And so that's why we have this absurd situation. And because there are so many bases in the GCC, that gives the Iranians the perfect pretext to attack them in order to destroy the GCC economy, which will destroy the American empire. So this is how the war is shaping out, okay? So the red is the Israelis and the Americans, the yellow are the Iranians. And as you can see, the Iranians are attacking everywhere, primarily Israel, okay? But also, as you can see, a lot of focus on Bahrain and Qatar. And again, the intention is to destabilize the economy and the government. Okay, it's to try to get as much instability as possible. Okay.
All right, so now y'all begin to see what Iran's strategy is, right? Because Iran is like, listen, we can't beat y'all head up. We know that. But you're over here exposed. You done got all these little bases over here because you wanted to stand over here and be like, yeah, we here. Anybody got anything to say? You know what I mean? You're going to have to take on the full might of the American military. That's why Trump and them talk so prideful and boastful. But Iran is like, yeah, but you can't protect all of them. You know what I'm saying? And we can hit you from all different directions. We're not just going to be in Tehran, right? Where you can just hit us with one sway. We're going to spread this thing out all over this country. Right? And we're going to be hitting all your little bases and all this stuff because the bottom line is you get your power from this petrodollar, right? So what if we take, you know what I mean, the ability of these people to get oil, you know what I'm saying, and make everybody, what if we take that away? Then what you going to do? You see what I'm saying? Now you see why Iran is firing on, you know what I'm saying, these countries that got these American bases in it and are now attacking those oil facilities and refineries, you see? Because the bottom line is like, well, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to show everybody that your US dollar is not worth anything. right? So now you see they're attacking the petrodollar, right? Let's go back to the video.
And as you can see, the Americans and Israelis are focused on Tehran. And so the Americans and the Israelis use something we call shock and awe. And the very idea of shock and awe is you decapitate the enemy. You cut off the head, the body will fall down. Okay? The problem, though, is again, the Iranians see this as a religious war. And so the Iranians have announced total war. Okay? And so what this means is that right now, command and control in Iran is decentralized. There's no one person telling everyone what to do. Every region has its own orders, has its own strategy. And so if you knock out Tehran, everyone else keeps on going. So if you take off the head, it doesn't change anything, okay? But unfortunately, the Israelis and the Americans use this as a military doctrine. Military doctrine just means how you design your military for what purpose. And so even though the Americans seem like an invincible army, they are not equipped to fight a 21st century war against drones, against destabilization, against religious fanatics. Okay, they're just not, right? But unfortunately, because of military doctrine, they're gonna keep on attacking Tehran. Now, the great irony of all this is that the Iranians who would be most supportive of regime change, are actually in the cities because they are educated, they're progressive. The people who are most fundamentally against you, will fight you to the death, are religious fanatics, the Shia militants living in the rural areas, okay? So this is a really silly thing where you are actually destroying those who will most likely support you, and you're leaving alone those who are most likely to commit jihad against you.
You hear that? They got America befuddled. You see what I'm saying? All those people that they show us all on TV, the people that really want democracy over there, right? They're in the cities. They're in there, because they like, yeah, we want to be free. We want to go run around here like those people in the West and do all that, the filth that we do over here, right? But the religious people who are living in the urban areas, those who want to fight, against, this hedonism that's trying to come over and take over their country, you know what I'm saying? They're not there. You know what I mean? They didn't decentralize. You know what I'm saying? So if you come in bombing Tehran, okay, bombing, guess what? That don't stop this. We still gonna keep, because we scattered all over the place. So you're gonna have to track down each and every one of us, you know what I'm saying, in order for us to keep poking your eye out. You see what I'm saying? Because that's what they're doing. They're poking at your eye, Samson. You see what I mean? Yeah, you big and strong and tough. We can't fight you, whatever, but we gonna put them eyes out. Then what you gonna do, right? And that's exactly what they're doing. You see? Well, and here's another thing. Think about this. That's why when I seen this, I was like, man, that's funny. Because this is the exact thing what I was telling y'all about, you know what I'm saying? Y'all going to Apostle Curtis's, sign up, subscribe there. With K. Judah, sign up and subscribe there. Brother Two Houses Ministry, the Brothers of Nazarene Hebrew Institute of Technology. Because that way they can't just hit one person, right? If they all know that we're just here, they hit me, then we all scatter. But the bottom line is, if they hit me and you're already over here, we got different ways of communicating. You see what I'm saying? When I realized, that, a lot of the people that watch my channel, watch Apostle Curtis' channel, watch K. Judah's channel, watch Two Houses Ministries, Two Houses of Israel's channel, when we realized that, we are basically all a community that's flowing in different places. If that somebody was to take out Two Houses of Israel channel, then guess what? All his people will know, all he got to do is reach out to me. You see what I'm saying? Or reach out to Apostle Curtis, right? They try to attack Apostle Curtis, all he got to let me know is they're trying to attack him, and then guess what? I can tell everybody because people will know to come here. You see what I'm saying? So basically what we're doing is decentralizing, just like what Iran has done. You see what I'm saying? And when I seen it, I was like, oh, I understand why they're doing that. But anyway, let's go back to the video.
So another idea that I want you guys to understand is the idea of asymmetry. Asymmetry, all right? So what is asymmetry? Asymmetry means that the two sides are choosing to fight different wars using different techniques because one is much stronger than the other, okay? America is a great empire. It has unlimited resources. It has the USD. It controls the world, right? Iran is a country that has been under economic sanctions for the past 45 years. It's poor. Its technology is very limited, okay? But as we learn in this class, actually, those nations that are poor actually have more energy. They're more open, and they're more cohesive. All right, so let me give you an example. This is what we call the Shahad drones. Shahad drones. Each of these drones costs $50,000 at most, okay? At most. It can go as cheap as $35,000 US. But one of them is $50,000. As you can see, you can fit a lot of these drones to a truck that can go anywhere in Iran, and they can hide anywhere. All right. So the thing to understand is, first of all, these drones are cheap. They're easy to make. They make about 500 a day, okay? And estimates are about there's 80,000 right now that the Iranians have. So they can go on for a long, long time, okay? And one of these drones, again, can knock out a desalination plant. It can knock out an oil field. It can knock out a hotel. It can do a lot of damage. And it's easily transportable. You can hide it anywhere. You can use it from anywhere, okay? And that's what the Iranians are using as an offensive weapon. And how do the Americans defend against this? They use something called a THAAD, right? Right, guys. This is what they use, THAAD. THAAD stands for Thermal High Altitude Air Defense. And they also have like Patriot systems. There's a lot, okay? The thing that you need to know about the system is it's really expensive. This missile, guys, costs $1 million. $1 million. So there's this $50,000 drone coming your way, and you throw a $1 million missile at it, okay? And often these missiles miss, so you have to throw 2 or 3 missiles at it, okay? So you're spending $2 to $3 million on each $50,000 that the Iranians spend. That's kind of silly. Second thing you'll notice is that this thing is really big and really slow, and therefore you can't really move it around. Therefore, it's pretty easy for the Iranians to spot where this is and attack it. And then when these things blow up, that's a lot of money, guys. Then you're like, what? But this makes no sense. You know the Iranians have drones. They've had drones for like 10 years. You've also seen drones used in the Russia-Ukraine war to devastating effect. Why don't the Americans know this? Why did they prepare? Okay, and again, it has to do with military doctrine. Because military doctrine determines how you fight a war, it determines on your bureaucracy, and it determines how you spend your resources, okay? And unfortunately, the Americans are used to fighting something called the Cold War, right? And the Cold War, because you can actually fight the war. You can actually kill each other because then people use nuclear weapons. The Cold War was about flexing, okay? You see how big and powerful I am? Me, okay? That's all it was.
So you see, $50,000 drone, and they got to shoot up $1 million rockets to try to stop it, right? And they got thousands of them. You know, so the bottom line is every time you shooting up these $1 million rockets, you spending $1 million, right? Versus 50,000, right? So financially, it's draining you. It's going to drain you, and they got thousands of them, right? So now you see why Rubio and Trump was out there talking about they didn't change the narrative. So I'm saying, oh, they're trying to build a nuclear weapon. They got lots of ballistic missiles that, they were going to use these ballistic missiles. So while they were building up a nuclear warhead, and that way nobody could do nothing, and they would have took over the whole region. Well, guess what? You know what I'm saying? They had to defend themselves some way. And now they done figured out how to defend themselves. And they scattered all throughout that country. Even if y'all bring in ground troops, you know what I'm saying? You don't know where these things are going to come from. And now they're blowing up your radars and all this type of stuff. So now you see why, the United States is over here just like, time out again. And y'all already did it once. You know what I'm saying? Now you want to call for time out again because you realize, man, they're firing on these things, these people all over the place. They're not just in one place. Now y'all begin to realize they had a better strategy than you, Now let me show y'all this next clip.
So I wrote about this March 6th. So I wrote about this 4 days ago, and that we had a lot more casualties and there are more coming because Iran's not going to stop. Right now we're getting signals that the Trump administration is reaching out, trying, hey, let's talk ceasefire. Iran's having none of it. They've been betrayed twice by Donald Trump and his group of clowns.
Right.
You know, and so they're not ready to say no. They've got the world by the testicles, is the polite way of saying it, withholding the Strait of Hormuz. They've shut down the movement of not only oil, liquid natural gas. They're the supplier of about 25 to 30% of the world's liquid natural gas, and about 30 to 35% of the world's urea, which is used for fertilizer. Now, I just learned that may not be as important as I once thought it was, because most of it comes out of Oman. Oman, you don't have to worry about things going through the Strait of Hormuz. But on oil and liquid natural gas, huge. 94% of the Philippines dependent upon the flow of gas, both liquid and the petroleum oil out of the Persian Gulf. India, 80%. Japan, South Korea. So this is going to have a major impact on certain economies in the world. Now, I've said this ironically. I think Vladimir Putin's sitting there going, maybe Donald Trump really does like me, because what he's done is he's making Russia rich again. In a way, I mean, they're getting, they were forced to sell their oil previously under sanctions at like $55 a barrel. Now they're getting $88, $90 a barrel.
Well, and they just opened it up to India. I mean, that story over the past 48 hours, so the United States has eased its restriction on Russian oil flowing to India. I mean, talk about an absolute disaster.
So now y'all beginning to see what's happening, right? All that tough talk they're doing now, all of a sudden, Iran's got them, because they can keep on firing on all that stuff in the region. They can wipe all that stuff out. You know what I'm saying? To the point that, they hit all those refineries and all that stuff. And it's like, you know what? You keep on messing with us. Ain't nobody getting no oil. We'll shut down manufacturing worldwide. You know what I'm saying? Now what you think's going to happen? Now you see why Britain and all them is kind of like, well, we don't want to be with y'all, America. Russia, you got some oil we can get? You know what I'm saying? And now all of a sudden, what you think China? China is not going to just sit there and let you cut them completely off. You know what I mean? So of course they was going to try to help, Iran and Russia. Well, and all of them is going to start trying to work together. You know what I mean? They're trying to get out of this system in which y'all been, trading people, real tangible assets for paper, And now all of a sudden you went and bullied up and bossed up on everybody, and now everybody is working against you, So here it is. You're going to go down here, talk about you're going to be tough, and you promised these people in that region that you would protect them. That was the deal. Now these people in the region is realizing you ain't tough. You can't protect us. You know what I'm saying? Now Trump in there is like, hey, Poop. Hey, Poop. Man, holla at Iran. Tell him, man, I'm just joking. I'm just playing. We wasn't really, just tell them, we'll back out, we'll leave, but they, because they got to go and lick these wounds and try to re-strategize. And if Iran let them off the hook, they'll be ignorant. Iran should put it. If I was Iran, I ain't. Let's go back to the clip.
People think empires survive because of their armies. They think the United States is the most powerful country in the world because it has the biggest military, the most advanced weapons, the most aircraft carriers spread across every ocean. And yes, all of that is true. The American military is extraordinary. But here is the part they do not teach you. Military power alone has never sustained an empire, not once in history. Every empire that has ever lasted, every single one, had an economic system behind it, a financial structure, a money machine that kept the whole thing running. And in the case of the United States, that money machine is built on one thing, oil, and not American oil, the world's oil. And the way that oil connects to the American dollar is one of the most brilliant and most fragile systems ever designed. Let me explain. Here is how the system works. Oil is the single most important commodity in the global economy, bar none. There is nothing else that comes close. Every factory needs it. Every airplane needs it. Every shipping container crossing the ocean needs it. Every car, every truck, every military vehicle on the planet runs on it. Modern civilization, as we know it, does not function without oil. Now, here is the critical part. For over 50 years, almost all of the oil traded on the global market has been priced and sold in one currency, the United States dollar. Not the euro, not the yen, not the yuan, the dollar. Think about what that means for a second. If you are Japan and you need to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, you cannot pay in yen. You have to pay in dollars. If you are India and you need oil from the Gulf, you cannot pay in rupees. You have to pay in dollars. If you are Germany, Brazil, South Korea, it does not matter. Every single country that needs oil, which is every country on earth, must first acquire United States dollars before they can buy a single barrel. Now, what does that create? It creates something incredibly powerful. It creates constant, never-ending global demand for the American dollar. Every single day, countries around the world are buying dollars, holding dollars, and storing dollars in their reserves just so they can participate in the oil market. And that demand is the secret engine behind American economic power. Because when the entire world needs your currency, you can do things that no other country can do. You can print money without destroying its value, at least not immediately. You can borrow trillions of dollars at low interest rates because everyone wants to hold your debt. You can fund the largest military in human history and station it across every continent and every ocean on the planet. You can run trade deficits year after year after year, and the system keeps working because the demand for your currency never stops.
But now you see, that's why America got all these goods that were coming in, right? Because it was a demand for the United States dollar, right? But you decouple the dollar from oil and the sale of oil, what happens? You're not getting all of this, this manufactured items and all these goods for paper anymore. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to build up in your country, and you're going to have to do honest trade, You're going to have to trade me something of value for something, in return, So you see where this is putting in the United States because they've gotten rid of, most of the United States manufacturing, right? So now where we are at is how far is America going to go to fight to maintain this system? This is what, when Trump said, if the dollar goes from being the standard of the world standard of currency, it's the equivalent of losing a war. It's exactly what he said, right?
BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar and take our dollar as the standard, take it off as the standard. And that's okay if they want to play that game, but I can play that game too. So anybody that's in BRICS is getting a 10% charge.
Is that immediate, sir? Or is
Yeah,
that
pretty soon.
If they engage in some behavior?
Well, if they're a member of BRICS, they're going to have to pay 10% tariff just for that one thing. And they won't be a member long. I thought BRICS was, I said this about a year ago, and it largely broke up. But, there are a couple that hang around, but I thought it largely broke up. BRICS is not, in my opinion, not a serious threat. But what they're trying to do is destroy the dollar so that another country can take over and be the standard. And we're not going to lose the standard at any time. If you have a smart president, you will never lose the standard. If you have a stupid president, like the last one, you would lose the standard. You wouldn't have the dollar as you. And if we lost the world standard dollar, that would be like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not going to let that happen. The dollar, you ever hear the expression, dollar is king? The dollar is king. We're going to keep it that way, okay? And I'm just saying, if people want to challenge it, they can, but they're going to have to pay a big price.
So this is where we have to understand what's really going on here and the real motives, not what they're telling you on that media. There you can see, as you begin to learn all this stuff, you can realize how much that media is full of crap. They know all this stuff, but yet they're not telling everybody. You see what I'm saying? And it gets out because they don't want everybody to know, just how fragile this system is. But we all know from the Bible, and I'm going to close out with that scripture before we leave and get out of here, that we have to go to a system in which you're not going to be able to buy or sell, say, if you take a mark. We know that they are working on a digital system. So just like he said, they're going to Russia and all this type of stuff now, and everything, and they're starting to make little deals and agreements with Russia. Are they working together? You see? Bottom line is, eventually, we know from scripture they will. I'll get that too here in a minute. But let's go to this next clip.
But this system did not happen by accident. It was built, it was engineered through very deliberate alliances in the Middle East, specifically with the oil-producing states of the Persian Gulf. The deal was simple and it was genius. The Gulf states, led by Saudi Arabia, agreed to sell their oil exclusively in United States dollars. In return, the United States agreed to provide military protection, American bases, American weapons, American security guarantees. The Gulf countries got a shield. America got the financial backbone of its entire empire. That is the Petrodollar system. That is the invisible machine running underneath everything. And as long as that machine keeps running, the United States stays on top. But the moment someone threatens to break that machine, everything changes. And that is exactly what is happening right now. Now, here is where most people get this conflict completely wrong. When they watch the news, they think the war is between Iran and Israel. They think the battlefield is in Gaza or Lebanon or on Israeli soil. And yes, those are active fronts. Those are real places where real fighting is happening. But they are not the main event. The real battlefield, the one that actually matters in the grand scheme of things, is the Gulf. I am talking about Saudi Arabia. I am talking about the United Arab Emirates. I am talking about Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait. These are the places that matter most in this conflict, and most people do not even realize it. See, these countries are not just wealthy nations sitting on top of oil. They are critical nodes in the global financial system. They are the infrastructure of the petrodollar. The oil they produce, the money they generate, the investments they make, all of that flows directly into global markets and reinforces the dominance of the United States dollar. Take Dubai as an example. Dubai did not become a global city by accident. It was built on one thing above everything else: stability. Wealthy people from all over the world moved their money to Dubai because they believed it was safe. Businesses set up headquarters there because the region was stable. Investors poured billions into real estate, infrastructure, and financial markets because they trusted that American military power would keep the Gulf secure. The entire economic model of these Gulf states is built on the perception of safety, not just actual safety, the perception of it. Now imagine what happens when that perception starts to crack. Imagine investors watching missiles fly across the Gulf region. Imagine wealthy expatriates looking at the news and wondering if their families are safe. Imagine insurance companies recalculating risk for every cargo ship passing through the area. What happens? Capital runs, money moves, businesses start looking for the exit, and when capital flees the Gulf, it does not just hurt Dubai or Riyadh or Doha. It weakens the entire financial ecosystem that the petrodollar is built on. The oil revenue slows down, the investments dry up, the recycling of dollars through global markets starts to break down. And this is where Iran's real strategy becomes terrifying, because Iran is not trying to beat the United States in a straight-up military fight. They know they cannot do that. No country on earth can match the American military in a direct conventional war. Iran knows this. So instead of fighting the machine, they are attacking the fuel that powers the machine. They are going after the economic foundations. They are targeting the Gulf. They are targeting the perception of stability. They are trying to make the entire region feel unsafe, unpredictable, and risky. And if they succeed, even partially, the financial damage could be far greater than anything a missile could ever do to a military base.
All right. So again, I want to read y'all Revelation 13, because now that you understand how this can change the monetary system of the whole world. And you already know that the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, you know what I mean, and South Africa, already are putting in a system, you know what I mean, which is going to be digital based, okay? So we understand that this could be the whole new system of which they bring in, where, you know, there's going to be a new monetary system that you won't be able to buy or sell, say if you take some type of mark, okay? So Revelation chapter 13, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. So this is going to be the final kingdom. And his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Well, we know the dragon is Satan. Okay, so this final kingdom is a Luciferian system. Okay, it's a Luciferian based kingdom. Okay, devil worshippers, right? And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Right? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. So we know we got to go to this final kingdom that is going to be worldwide, a worldwide kingdom. We don't have that yet. So we know that we have to go there. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. Okay? So anybody who's of the faith, right? You know what I mean? They're going to have a problem. They're going to make war against you. Okay? If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb. So he looks peaceful, and he spake as a dragon. So remember, if this kingdom, in order for it to get ushered in, this new world order, are they in the process of destroying this current world order, right? That's why I always show y'all the Albert Pike letters, right? Because we know that, you know what I mean, Iran, the leaders of the Islamic world, and the Zionists, you know what I mean, from the Illuminati, these devil worshippers, are set to mutually destroy each other. So is that the way that they're going to get out of this current world order that we're in to bring in this final world order, which will be called the beast, right? Anyway, verse 12, and he exercised all the power. So this leader that comes up out of this new kingdom that has to be established, this last final world kingdom that has to be established, he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that which dwelled therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he deceiveth them which dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell. So you see, that has to do with monetary, you know what I'm saying, policies, right? So this kingdom is going to tell you that you cannot buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay, so that's where you get your 666. So this final kingdom has to come up with a system in which they can keep you from buying or selling, right? So is that the reason why we're now getting ready to get off this paper dollar and go to a digital world currency, right? So that's why I said, even though it looks like they're against each other, they could actually be working all together. Let me show you another scripture, and then you'll see why I'm saying that. All right, Revelation chapter 17, verse 11 through 18, and it reads, verse 11, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth. So this is the final world kingdom that we just talked about, and is of the seven, and goeth into perdition. So he will be against the Most High Yah, right? And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Okay, so during that final hour is when they get their power. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast, unto this final kingdom, right? So these 10 kings, right? These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he said unto me, the water which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So you see, the waters are the world. They're the people. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, right? And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, right? Anyway, verse 17. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree. You see that? So that's why I tell you, are they actually working together? Because even if they're not, eventually they will, right? For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Now, some people say that that could be Jerusalem. Some people say that that could be Rome, right? But anyway, we'll see when we see. All right. So originally I had more of the one guy's video, you know what I'm saying, to do, to put in here, but it's probably going to make this video way too long. So I'm going to have to end up doing a part 2 to this, right? But I wanted to make sure we covered the ground basis of what this war is really about, why they're going in, and why they're having a hard time with Iran because of Iran's strategy to go after, the real power and engine of the United States, global, dominance, which is the petrodollar, right? And I wanted to make sure that all of y'all understand this, you know what I'm saying? So, if you don't know about these countries in that region, go to Google, type it in, Iran, the Google Maps, and look around, get yourself familiar with this stuff so you know geopolitics and what this is all about. Because you think that stuff that's happening way over there, across the world won't affect you. Yes, it will. You know what I mean? Because if you stop getting all of these goods shipped into this country, you know what I mean? And people stop using your dollar, right? The bottom line is you are going to have, see the prices of everything go up because now, there's not a demand to get your dollar. And if there's not a demand to get your dollar, you're not going to get these goods, that you're used to getting, for nothing. Right? You know what I'm saying? So the stores are going to dry up. And if the store dries up, then guess what? The demand gets higher and higher and higher. And your dollar is going to continue to lose its value at an increasingly, faster and faster rate. So this will affect you. This is why I say you need to understand these things so that you can prepare. You know what I'm saying? And stay in prayer, right? Because you need to be talking to the Father. So the Father, build your relationship with the Father, with the Most High Yah, through his only begotten Son, our Lord and Savior. Some of y'all call him Yahushua. Some of y'all call him Yahushua. Some of y'all call him Jesus. But build your relationship with him so that he can direct you. And whether he shows you in dreams, visions, you begin to hear, you pray, you ask for the Holy Spirit, because you're going to need to understand these things in the hour that we're getting ready to enter into, right? You know what I'm saying? Things are getting hectic. Right? The United States has to get desperate. They have to try to fight for their dollar. They have to, or else the kingdom, that they built is going to collapse, right? So with that being said, hopefully everybody, gets a better understanding with this video. You know what I'm saying? So let's stay in prayer. You know what I mean? And at the same point in time, we're going to continue to pray. Father, avenge us of our adversaries. They stole our identity and they've been living high on the hog. You know what I'm saying? But yet, they let the rest of us sit over here and suffer and told us a bunch of lies, right? To the point we didn't understand most of none of this stuff, right? But anyway, thanks for watching. Most High bless each and every one of y'all. Till we meet again, shalom.
Though I walk through the valley of death, shadows whisper. Still in my breath, the ground feels cold, like it's alive. Each step a battle, just to survive. Though I walk alone through the dark, through the storm, but I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. A light inside, it's my barricade. The trees, they shiver, they bend and creak. The wind, it howls, the future bleak. Yet my heart beats loud, a steady drum. It tells the I won't succumb. They can't break me. No, they won't. No, they won't. My soul's on fire. They don't know. Though I walk alone through the dark, through the storm, but I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. No, I'm not afraid. A light inside. It's my barricade. Fear is a shadow, it clings to the weed. But I got a voice, and I let it speak. Mountains crumble, the skies might fall, but I'll rise up, I'll rise through it all. Though I walk, though I'm not afraid. A lot afraid. No, I'm not afraid.